let's continue on with the connective tissues. So what do we have here? Elastic connective tissue. Do not confuse elastic connective tissue with elastic cartilage. Two different things. Elastic connective obviously is going to have a lot of rubber bands in it, a lot of elastic fibers. You'll find it supporting a vertebrae, but you also find them in your large arteries, artery walls. So when the blood goes through, like say for instance, your large artery in your chest, it's called your aorta. It stretches. So you'll find a lot of elastic connective tissue in large arteries. Here it is. Here's the aorta right there. It comes off your heart. And these little fibers, and they stretch, the rubber bands and stretch, and they make up actually the wall, all right? Makes up the wall. But also you'll find them vertebral column and within the tracheobronchial tree, your bronchial tubes that stretch a little bit as you're taking a deep breath in. Here's another picture. See these all little wavy lines? And elastic connective tissue, which is a type of dense connective. Then we got your cartilage. Now, three types, here they are down here. Three types of cartilage. Is going to be your hyaline cartilage. Also, you have your elastic cartilage, as I mentioned earlier, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. There's not a good blood supply within the cartilage. Let's say, for instance, that if you look at hyaline cartilage is also known as articular cartilage when it makes up the ends of your bones. You've eaten chicken before, and you see that kind of a white, slippery, smooth cartilage on a chicken bone. Well, you can't have a good blood supply, because the thing is, as the cartilage, as you age, as it wears down and thins out a little bit due to the aging process, well, geez, if I had a good blood supply, I'd be bleeding into your joint all the time, wouldn't you? It's made up of the chondroblast chondrocytes. It's very tough, is flexible, doesn't have a good nerve connection, so not a lot of nerves in it, a lot of water, so it rebounds after compression like when you're jogging. So you have fibrocartilage within the knee, but also you have articular cartilage within your knee. So think of it as kind of like a rubber sponge, you might say. Once again, not a good blood supply. That's why cartilage, you damage your cartilage, it takes a long time to heal. It gets the nutrients from this little outer membrane around the outside of the cartilage called perichondrium. Right, chop this word up, peri, surrounding, chondro, cartilage. So surrounds the cartilage. Once again, hyaline, elastic, fibrocartilage. First one, here's hyaline cartilage. In hyaline cartilage, this is kind of like the one that most of your body makes up, is made up of hyaline cartilage. You'll find that on the ends of your long bones. You're going to find that within, these are called costal cartilage, within your rib cage. Remember when you were a fetus? Right? Remember when you were a fetus? Oh, actually you're a hyaline cartilage model, and then the hyaline cartilage turned into bone. You look at this. Here is the matrix in between. It's made up of chondromucoprotein, but see these little cells within here? That's the chondrocyte, and the little chamber they're stored in is called a lacuna. Or look at this one. This makes up a tracheal ring, hyaline cartilage in a tracheal ring. And if you look right there, I don't know if you can notice that, but that's pseudostratified ciliated clumber epithelium right there. See that? Makes up the lining of your trachea. As you zoom in on that cartilage, once again, there's the cell inside. What was that cell called? The what? Chondrocyte. What was the name of the little chamber? A little chamber right there. What was that called? The lacuna. There you go. Then we have elastic cartilage. With elastic cartilage, we're going to find this. It makes up your outer ear. So if you squeeze your ear right now. Come on, squeeze your ear. And what? It just bounces right back. Right? Bounces right back into its just normal shape. Also, you're going to find this within the larynx. It makes up something known as your epiglottis. And the epiglottis helps to protect your airway as you're swallowing food. so food doesn't get down the wrong pipe. So this kind of looks like a shield. When you swallow, it flops down, it bends, and protects your airway, covers your airway as you swallow. As you look at this under a microscope, what do you got? Well, there's that chondrocyte. There it is, chondrocyte, and there's that little chamber. But see these little black fibers here? That's the elastic fibers. There you go, these black fibers, elastic fibers. Or, here's another picture. Once again, chondrocyte, lacuna, little chamber, and there's little fibers in here. That's what kind of gives that one away. That's what you see the difference between hyaline and elastic cartilage is the fibers. Then we have fibrocartilage. Now, fibrocartilage, this is real strong stuff. A lot of collagen, tons of collagen. See all those blue wavy lines? That's collagen. And then you can see the chondrocyte in the little chamber, the lacuna. There it is. Real strong stuff. Well, where are you going to find this? You'll find it making up your intervertebral discs. Also, the top part of your shin bone. What's the name of your shin bone? Your tibia. And the top part of that shin bone, you got these little cup type things, and they're called menisci. And the fibrocartilage help to make up the menisci of your knee. And here's another picture. Hey, wavy lines. What's the wavy lines? Tons of collagen. It doesn't have a really good blood supply again, so you damage this cartilage. It takes a while for it to heal. And then there's a little cartilaginous cells, chondrocyte in the little chamber, the lacuna. That's actually very pretty, isn't it? That make up a good, like, wallpaper. Wouldn't that make up a nice wallpaper? You know, maybe you guys should start, like, A&P wallpaper. Think about that. Then bone, osseous tissue. Supports, protects, stores fat. That would be the yellow bone marrow. The red bone marrow makes blood cells, red cells and white cells. And it's got a lot of collagen, more than cartilage, because it's got to be real strong. But what makes it hard, there it is, inorganic calcium salts. Premature bone cell, osteoblast, produces the stuff in between the cells, matrix. The osteocytes maintain it. And then osteon, I'll show you a picture of that, I'll explain that to you shortly. And it's got a good blood supply. So what heals quicker? Bone, fibrocartilage, or hyaline cartilage, or elastic cartilage. What heals quicker? Bone does. Bone heals quicker. It's got a better blood supply. Now as you look at this, all right, see that thing in the middle? The little thing in the middle is called the central canal. They call it Haversian canal. In the middle, what do you got in there? Well, it's a small artery, arterial, small vein, a venule, and a nerve. And this is kind of like where the bone gets its nutrients, through this little central canal. And then around the outside of the canal, see these little black specks right there? See the little black specks? And those little black specks are something known as your bone cells. There you are. These are your bone cells. And see these little hair type things, little hairs? These are little canals, little channels. So it allows a movement of nutrients from one cell to another cell to another cell to another cell. That's what that is. So that little black speckly thing, that's the bone cell. All right, look at this one. So here's where it's getting its nutrients. And see these fine little wavy lines called, don't write this down, it's called a canaliculi. But it allows to transfer nutrients from this bone cell to that bone cell to some guy back here in the cheap seats. Then you got blood. Atypical connective tissue fluid. Red blood cells, most common type. Talk more about this in AP2. But you also have your white cells and your platelets. It does have some fibers, and the fibers are very important for blood clotting. But also transports what? O2, CO2, nutrients, and waste products. You look at blood. What do you got going on here? Here's your erythrocyte and RBC. See, and then you got these funky looking things in here. Damn, that funky looking thing, what the heck is this? It's a neutrophil, very important for immune response. And then this is a lymphocyte, once again, very important for immune response. See these little speckles right there? those are your platelets. Those are the platelets. And why do they call them white cells? Why do they call them white cells? You look under a microscope, they don't look white to me. But the thing is, if I draw some blood from you, put it in a test tube, and I let it sit, or put it in a centrifuge and spin it down, well, the red cells spin down to the bottom. Then you got this little white area, thin little white area above the white cells. Or above the red cells, sorry, above the red cells. This little white area. And it's called the buffy coat. And that's where you find the WBC. So that's why I call them white cells, because they're contained in that little white area when you centrifuge blood. And then the top part is going to be a straw-colored liquid, and that's the blood plasma. Look at this one here. What do you got going on? There's a neutrophil, another neutrophil. This is a lymphocyte. See how little that is, about the size of a red blood cell. See the little speckle right there? That's a platelet. Here's another platelet, and there's your RBCs. Then you have your muscle tissue. Now, muscle tissue, yeah, it's got a good blood supply, responsible for movement. What do you have with muscle tissue? Well, with muscle tissue, skeletal muscle, voluntary, cardiac muscle in the heart, involuntary, smooth muscle, walls of hollow internal organs. You'll find smooth muscle within tracheobronchial tree. You'll find the smooth muscle also within the GI tract. You'll find smooth muscle iris of your eye. It's involuntary. So here's your skeletal muscle tissue. Here we go. See these little stripes cutting across? They're called striations. The little black things right there, that's the nuclei. The striations, you're actually looking at the proteins that make up the skeletal muscle. It's the proteins. Then here's smooth muscle. Walls of hollow internal organs. Looks like sheet-type fibers. Little spindly shaped fibers. And then cardiac, see, they branch all over the place like this. And you'll find those primarily in your heart. There's skeletal muscle fiber. That's what they prefer to be called, skeletal muscle fiber. See these stripes called striations? And what happens is like playing with an earthworm. You touch earthworm and it pulls in. Same thing with these guys. They pull in. And then see these little black speckles? Bam. Little black speckles are the nucleus, So obviously makes up skeletal muscle. Then here's another picture. So it looks like under a microscope. That's a pretty cool picture. Little stripes cutting across and the nuclei. Then we have cardiac muscle tissue. Now with this one, you look at this. Here's the nuclei. Now these branch all over the place. See the little lines cutting across? The lines cutting across are called intercalated discs. And what they do is they allow the movement of ions from one cell to another cell, but also helps to hold the cells to each other. So as you get the movement from cell to cell, the heart beats as one smooth unit. Or you look at this one, see the lines cutting across, intercalated discs. You can still see the striations, but the little dark speckles are going to be the nuclei. You look up here at this darker stained one, see the lines cutting across? See, that's what tells you right there, guys. That's what tells you that's cardiac tissue. Smooth muscle tissue. Little spindly shaped cells. You don't really see any striations with it. So it makes up walls of hollow internal organs, like the GI tract, for instance. Also, you'll find it in the bladder, the ureters that bring the urine from the kidney to the bladder. Also, your uterus as well. So as you look at them, say, little spindly shaped cells, no striations, no stripes. There's the central nucleus. And then if I kind of pull this apart and tease it, that's what it looks like, tease, kind of pulled apart. You can see the nucleus right there in the middle. And that's smooth muscle tissue. Then you have nervous tissue, brain, spinal cord, your nerves. It's made up of your neurons, conduct nerve impulse, generate and conduct nerve impulse, and also this neuroglial cell, glial cells. And these are the cells in between the neurons that support and insulate and protect the neurons. So within nervous tissue, there's other cells besides a neuron. You look at this, all right? This is not a very good picture of neuron, but neuron's made up of the dendrites. We'll get to this. dendrite cell body. See the little tail coming down? It's called the axon. So the impulse comes in, goes across the dendrite cell body, down the tail, and then down the axon, down to the end. Where do you find them? Brain, spinal cord, nerves. Here's a better picture. Right? Look at, there it is. There's a big old nerve cell. Or you look at these guys. Right? See these big star-shaped cells? That's a nerve cell. But see these little black speckles in between, see them? Those are the glial cells. Now the glial cells, you don't have to write this down, but there's different types of glial cells. One type of glial cell is called a microglial cell. And that actually is a little phagocyte that kind of sloths around and kind of cleans stuff up in between the neurons. Or if you heard of something called a Schwann cell that insulates the neuron. We'll talk more about those later. But big star-shaped cell, that's a neuron. So, regenerative capacity. Well, epithelial, bone, loose connective, areolar type of loose connective, dense irregular, and your blood forming tissue, they regenerate real well, very, very well. And then moderate, smooth muscle, dense regular like a tendon. And also it doesn't say in here, but also cartilage as well. And then no regenerative capacity, heart muscle. See, if someone has a heart attack, all right, that scarred heart muscle is going to be replaced. Or I'm sorry, that heart muscle is going to be replaced with scar tissue. Same thing, nervous tissue, brain, spinal cord. You've heard about like a spinal cord injury, or someone has a stroke or a CVA, cerebrovascular accident. Doesn't regenerate. They try to. But see, new research are working on that. Trying to get these cells to actually regenerate. So they're working on it. And then, oh, class, it sucks to get old. Don't wish to get old. But look at this. Remember, you're a youth, right? Normally function through youth, middle age. That's if you have a good diet, circulation. It's always good to have good circulation now. And infrequent wounds and infection. But you notice as someone ages or someone's got the diabetes and doesn't have a good blood supply, because the blood supply is all plugged up with wax, and that wax is called cholesterol. Well, it takes forever for a wound to heal if you don't got a good blood supply to that tissue. Another thing that happens, the epithelial, they thin out. Tissue repair takes a little bit longer, less efficient. And if you don't exercise, bone, muscle, nervous tissue, it'll atrophy. Atrophy means decrease in size. And that can be avoided with exercising. And also keep your brain active. Keep your brain active. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep your brain active so it doesn't atrophy. Also, as you age, you're going to get DNA mutations. And actually cancer, as you age, increased cancer risk. Just a fact of life on that one, class.